Welcome back to the Conviction Fiction, where we peel back the polite veneers and talk about what really happens after the cell door slides open. I'm your host, Antoine Rivers, and today, right here on Independence Day weekend, we're cracking open a subject that makes a lot of folks uneasy. It makes them shift in their chairs a little bit, and that's post incarceration relationships. That magical and sometimes messy collision of dating, marriage, and family reintegration when you come home. While most people out there are celebrating freedom with fireworks and backyard burgers, many returning citizens are learning that freedom isn't always simple or pretty. Sure, Hollywood loves a reunion. Cue the tears, the hugs, the soft piano music, but in the real world, it's more like, hey, who are you now? And what do we do with all this baggage we didn't pack together? So, dating after a long time feels a little like trying to jump into a moving car, blindfolded. Marriage? Imagine maintaining intimacy when your idea of romance has been 15-minute phone calls and supervised visits for the last few years. And family, but sometimes your kids grow up, your parents grow old, and you're left figuring out where you fit in the puzzle that kept moving without you. Today, we're digging into all of that, those awkward first dates, the power struggles, the trust issues, the small triumphs, and the real talk about how love and connection can survive and sometimes thrive after incarceration. So grab your headphones, maybe a plate of barbecue, and definitely a sense of humor. You're going to need all three. This is the Conviction Fiction. Coming home after prison, you carry more than a duffel bag of state issued belongings. You carry the invisible burden of expectation. For many of us, the first day out feels like stepping into a life that has been waiting with crossed arms, tapping his foot, demanding answers that we really don't have yet. There's an unspoken pressure to be everything to everyone at once. You're supposed to be grateful, productive, emotionally available, and ready to pick up right where you left off. But the reality is, you can't just snap your fingers and become the perfect partner or the parent your kids needed while you were gone. You can't erase years of absence or the harm that may have been caused before or even during your incarceration. Dating after release is its own maze. You have to relearn how to trust, how to be vulnerable, and how to be seen as a whole person rather than a label. A lot of people don't understand how deeply prison shapes you, how it can make you guarded even when you're desperate to connect. One man I've interviewed told me that he hadn't touched another human being without the CO watching in over a decade or more. He said that the first time he held his girlfriend's hand, it felt foreign, like my own body wasn't sure it belonged. These are the kind of experiences no one prepares you for. You might be navigating parole conditions that limit where you can go, who you can see, and what time you have to be home. How do you plan a date night when you're on an ankle monitor? How do you show up for someone else when you're still figuring out basic survival, like your housing, employment, and even how you're going to get around? Even if you had a partner waiting for you on the outside, there's no guarantee the bond you shared will translate back into the real world. Incarceration changes people in ways neither party always recognizes at first until you're face to face again. For some, the love is going to grow stronger through letters and visits. For others, the distance becomes a gulf too wide to cross. Now, there's always that constant undercurrent of shame also. You wonder if your partner's friends or family are judging you. You wonder if you're good enough. You wonder if you can ever make up for that lost time. And I'm going to tell you, you can't. And you feel the weight of wanting to prove yourself worthy of love when for so long you've been treated like you didn't deserve it. If there's one truth I've learned from these stories and from my own experience, is this: you have to learn to be patient with yourself. Reintegration isn't an event, it's a process that unfolds day by day, sometimes hour by hour. And before you can expect anyone else to trust you or love you, you have to start believing that you are worthy of those things again. That's the first step, and it's often the hardest one to take. Now, we talked about the weight of expectations, but what about um, the marriage or the relationship part of it? Marriage is already a high wire act. Two people trying to balance love, bills, and whatever childhood baggage they've smuggled into the union themselves. But when you add incarceration to the equation, it's not just a high wire act anymore. It's a higher wire act during a thunderstorm, blindfolded while the crowd below shouts their unsolicited opinions. Let's start with the folks who got married inside. You'd be surprised how many weddings happen in prison chapels. I mean, the fluorescent lighting is a real mood setter. Nothing says forever like saying your vows next to a vending machine stocked with stale honey buns and Skittles. There you are pledging eternal devotion while the correctional officer watches you to make sure no contraband changes hands along with those rings. It's surreal, sometimes beautiful in its own act of defiance. Some of these couples met through pen pal programs or a letter here, a letter there, maybe some carefully posed photos in a state issued uniform or fed uniform. And before you know it, someone's falling in love with the version of you on paper. There's an intensity to it. Right? The correspondence can feel like a lifeline. You're waiting on mail call. It's a basically you try to get to a safe place because you're in a vulnerable world and around you everything else is going on. It's no wonder people develop deep bonds when they are incarcerated. But the reality is that a relationship nurtured through ink and imagination doesn't always translate smoothly into life after release. Where you're inside, you can say all the right things. You can show up in predictable ways like answering letters immediately, making phone calls, sending out carefully composed declarations of love, um, little cards that your homie make. He can draw real good, so you get little love cards to send. Once you're free, though, life comes crashing in. You got bills, jobs, probation, past trauma if you haven't dealt with it. All those ingredients can turn romance into something resembling a sporadic obstacle course. I can remember, man, for me, I have married my wife after serving 15 years. We didn't meet through prison, but I had a friend of mine, Terrence. He met his wife while they were in prison through a ministry program. They fell in love over Bible verses and long love letters and planned every detail of their future together. He had did just about as much time as me. Right when he came home, he thought he was ready to slip right into the role of husband like a tailor-made suit. What he found out instead was a relationship straining under the pressure of expectations neither one of them fully understood. For instance, he knew that she loved him. He knew that, but she loved the version of him she imagined more than the man who had walked out of that gate. And this is a hard truth. Inside, you'll have time to reflect, to become introspective, to work on self improvement. Outside, you're suddenly overwhelmed by the chaos of freedom. You know, while she might be expecting a knight in shining armor, and he was feeling like he was still learning to walk on the uneven ground of real life. Terrence and his wife, they tried counseling, tried taking it slow, but the rift grew anyway. There were arguments about money, about who set the rules, about why he seemed so emotionally shut down. And he later admitted to me, because like I said, he was my homie, that he sometimes missed the simplicity of prison routines because at least he knew what to expect every day. He knew he was going to have to get up, make up his bed, go eat, right? Go to whatever work detail he had, go work out, take a shower, repeat. Okay. That's something that a lot of people on the outside don't understand. Even unhealthy environments can feel comforting when they're predictable. Inside, your schedule is set. Your meals arrive. You go get them whether you want them or not. It's just going to be there. Your social circle is pretty limited, for better or worse. You're going to, everybody's in there, right? But out here, freedom is exhilarating, but it's also exhausting. Now, let's talk about the marriages that existed before prison. Now, these relationships come with a whole different set of challenges. If you're fortunate, you have a partner who holds it down while you're away. They pay the bills, raise the kids, and carry the weight of your absence. And then they'll stand by you during visits, put money on your books, take your calls, and remind you that someone is waiting on the other side. Right? That's all good. That's an incredible act of loyalty. But it also breeds resentment. Even the most devoted partners have moments when they feel abandoned. They've been living as a single parent, single breadwinner, single everything. And all of a sudden, you come home, right? But by the time you come home, hopefully you don't have a Jody situation. But by the time you come home, they might be carrying layers of anger and fatigue they haven't spoken about at all. I go to a lot of events here in Atlanta with uh, returning citizens here. And I once talked to a woman whose husband did 7 years. She told me that when he came home, he wanted to jump right back into being the man of the house. But she had been the man of the house and the woman of the house for almost a decade. She didn't need rescuing. She needed him to ask, how is she doing? And that's right there. That's the crux of it. Many returning spouses are so focused on reclaiming their role, being that provider, the protector, the partner, that they forget their loved ones have changed too. They forget that their partner learned to survive without them. And sometimes that survival required hardening their heart. Now, sometimes you got to be a little funny. You got to have some humor. You have to laugh at the absurdity sometimes, like when you forget your spouse's coffee order and they act like you committed treason, or when you walk into Target and can't believe that some dish soap costs like $6. But when you try to initiate romance and end up falling asleep because your internal clock is still stuck on, bedtime. So now laughter doesn't always solve everything, but it softens the edges. It reminds both people, hey, we're human and we're trying. So what can couples do to build something sustainable after release? Well, first, talk. And I mean talk a lot. And not just about logistics. Talk about fears. Talk about shame. Talk about the weird dreams. Talk about resentment. Talk about what freedom actually feels like and what it doesn't feel like yet. Secondly, you can always seek help. Counseling is not a luxury, it is a necessity, especially when one or both of you have been shaped by some form of trauma. Now, don't wait until things get on fire. Go early, go often. Even if it's just to learn how to have hard conversations without hurting each other. Third, I recommend building rituals, not just routine. A routine is brushing your teeth in the morning. A ritual is making Sunday breakfast together. It's about taking walks together. It's about sharing a playlist. It's the things that make you feel connected when life gets loud. Fourth, forgive fast and fully. That doesn't mean ignoring red flags or excusing harmful behavior. It means recognizing that mistakes will happen. And if you're going to walk this path together, grace has to be a part of your luggage. Fifth, remember that healing doesn't happen in sync. One partner might be emotionally ready to leap into the future, and the other might be still unpacking the past. Respecting each other's timeline is an act of love. And finally, and maybe the most important, accept that marriage after incarceration isn't a return, it's a beginning. It's not about proving that you made it through the storm. It's about learning how to dance in the rain that keeps falling afterward. There are going to be some good days. There are going to be setbacks. There will be nights when you lie in bed wondering if you're too broken to love or too tired to keep trying. That's completely normal. But if both people are willing to do the work, not just for each other, but for themselves, then something beautiful can be built. Maybe something even stronger than what existed before the prison bars, the time lost, and the years apart. It won't be easy, but easy isn't what we're after. We don't want the easy stuff. We want it to be tough, right? Because there are other things that are going to be going on, like the family ties and even fatherhood, right? You thinking about dating, or you were in a marriage or about to get married. What about family ties that you had before, right? Rebuilding family relationships after incarceration is often the hardest part of coming home. You walk through the door hoping time has stood still, but it hasn't. Your kids are grown now. Your parents have aged. The photos and phone calls you clung to inside only tell half the story of what's really been going on. Because when you're gone, life doesn't wait. Birthdays still happen without you. Holidays come and go. You celebrated those holidays, when everyone was on edge around those Thanksgivings and Christmases and stuff like that, even with the Independence Day, right? I've been in camps where Independence Day was kind of a big deal. Ministries and churches from around the way around where we were would come in like barbecue. It was like a free day. You get ice cream, free ice cream, all that stuff. So those holidays come and go. The people you love find ways to keep moving forward. Sometimes out of survival, sometimes strictly out of resentment, and other times just because they have no other choice. So for many returning citizens, fatherhood carries that heavy weight. You want to step back into your role to show up in all the ways you couldn't before, but your children may not know how to let you in. We talked about that on a previous podcast episode. Be sure to go check it out, some of the past episodes, because we talked about children with incarcerated parents and how fatherhood or motherhood works when you're coming home from doing a bid. Some kids will keep their distance to protect themselves from disappointment. Others are a little bit angry and don't have the words to say why. And then, you might have a few that seem fine on the surface, but they still carry hurt that will resurface later, maybe in acting out or doing something crazy. One man shared with me, we was at a car show event, that when he hugged his teenage son for the first time in years, the boy stood stiff, arms at his side, unsure how to respond. He just stood there and the man was hugging. It was a moment he dreamed about, and this moment broke him. It also made him realize that rebuilding trust is not about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent acts over time. Even your siblings, some of them will have mixed feelings. Some will welcome you back with open arms, and others will quietly wonder if you'll slip back into your old habits. Even the most supportive families can feel exhausted by the demands of reintegration. The most important lesson I've learned is this: you can't rush healing. You can't demand forgiveness on your timeline. You have to just show up over and over and over again, and then accept that sometimes your presence alone is all you can offer. It's going to take some time. Coming home is just the beginning. The real work is proving day by day that you are here to stay. That's where the real work is going to come in at. Now, the role of your community and the support system that you build around you is vitally important. That's one thing that becomes crystal clear during this reentry journey, is that no one integrates alone, at least not successfully integrate alone. You can have the best intentions, the strongest personal resolve, the deepest love for your family, but without a support system, all of that can crack under the weight of real world pressures. Reentry is not a straight line. It's a maze of paperwork and expectations, emotional landmines, and invisible barriers that you even know they were there. And relationships, whether with a partner, a girlfriend, boyfriend, a child, a sibling, or just a friend, they don't thrive in isolation. They need air. They need space to process. And sometimes they need help. Now, community plays a powerful role in that help. A consistent support network, people who know what you're going through, who won't flinch when you talk about your past, or understand that the stress of trying to rebuild from the bottom up is often the difference between surviving and actually healing. One returning citizen told me that what saved his marriage was a local reentry couples group. It wasn't therapy exactly, but just being in that room with other couples going through the same thing made him feel like they weren't crazy, like their struggle wasn't unique or that it was destined for damnation. That's the thing about community. It normalizes the struggle. And that is the type of community that we have here on the Conviction Fiction podcast. We want to help you see that relationship challenges post incarceration aren't a sign of weakness or failure. They're a sign of adjustment, growth, and transition. It's all messy, human things. Churches, nonprofits, barbershops, peer mentoring groups, even social media groups have become unexpected lifelines. The Conviction Fiction has become a lifeline for some of you listeners, not because we have all the answers, but because we talk, and sometimes that's all you need. Our families can't be the main support, not because they don't care, but because they are, let's be honest, they tired. They've been holding things down. They've got their own healing to do. And here we come with all this extra baggage, right? So you have to have community help. That's where, like I said, those third party voices, like a mentor, a counselor, a community elder, or the Conviction Fiction podcast can be that bridge. For partners and loved ones, support groups can also be vital. Have them sit down and listen to the podcast with you, because many of them carry pain they don't even talk about. Fear, resentment, exhaustion. Community gives them a chance to process those emotions without unloading them onto the person coming home. Right? It's not just about service. This is about belonging. And when you feel connected to something bigger than yourself, it builds hope. That hope bleeds into every relationship that you're trying to repair. Okay. Now, whether it's helping a couple communicate more clearly, giving a father the confidence to keep showing up for his kids, or simply reminding someone that they aren't alone in this process, community doesn't fix everything, but it can carry you while you do the work. So, in a world that often greets returning citizens with silence, stigma, or indifference, finding a place where you're seen and supported can make all of the difference. I know it did for me, because sometimes I think I'm just like everybody else. That what I need the most is not perfection. I just need a backup. I need somebody that can go there with me. Okay. Now, in closing today, guys, if you're stuck with us, stuck with me through this entire episode, go ahead and give yourself a round of applause, or at least a polite nod in the mirror. Because if you're honest, when we talk about post-incarceration relationships, it isn't exactly first date material. You don't just tell someone, hey, I just got out. I just did whatever. But these awkward, necessary conversations are exactly why Conviction Fiction exists. As we head into Independence Day weekend, a lot of folks will be celebrating freedom with fireworks, cookouts, and some questionable karaoke. But for returning citizens, independence has a whole different meaning. It's the daily grind of reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your place in relationships that time and trauma tried to erase. And sometimes it's learning that freedom also means you have to do your own laundry and figure out why your kid calls you by your first name. So I'm here to bring these stories and the uncomfortable truths behind them to the forefront, because real freedom isn't just about walking out of a cell. We know how bad that is. We know how bad it is, right? It's about building connections, navigating rejection, and finding the courage to say, hey, I'm not who I was, but I'm still worth loving. If this episode made you think, laugh, or side eye your own relationship history, do us a favor. Do me a favor. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow us on social media, Instagrams, your Facebook, get TikTok, wherever you scroll when you're avoiding real life, follow us there too. Your support helps us keep these conversations going and challenges the stereotypes that still cling to people after prison. Here at the Conviction Fiction, our mission is simple: to change the narrative around reentry, one real, sometimes messy story at a time. Because until we normalize these conversations, We'll keep pretending freedom is neat and tidy instead of the beautiful, complicated struggle that it really is. Because that no nothing get me more than, I mean, seeing TikTok videos or Facebook posts and stuff of people still stabbing each other in prison. That really hurts me. It's like it's damaging because it, I'm gonna go off script for a moment. Like if my loved one sees somebody getting stabbed up on a TikTok video or being jumped on or beat in or whatever on a video, then she asked me about it. It's like, how can I explain that? That's like those awkward comments. That's where I was. That's where I was. So yeah, I've seen that kind of stuff and really not. It's graphically violent for me. You know, it's like a reminder, not necessarily that where I've been, but we're trying to change the narrative. What show us the videos of the guys in class or the guys like talking to each other or encouraging each other or telling them not to fight or running some type of intervention program. Show me those stories. Why don't we see those stories? Like every time I pull up my Facebook, on my TikTok or something, because we do reentry stuff, I follow a lot of groups and stuff like that. All you see is like gang violence or some type of violence in the penitentiary, right? And I'm like, yeah, we know that, right? I guess a lot of people don't know. It's a market for everybody. With that, thank you for listening. Enjoy your Independence Day. And remember, independence isn't just a holiday. It isn't just a holiday for some, right? This is Antoine Rivers. Talk to you next week.